All right, friends, and welcome to my round 2 analysis from the Arlington Chess Club Open number 58. So I won round 1, as you guys should know. If you didn't see the video, just feel free to go back and watch it. And so it was a little bit of a lucky win, but I had to just fight back to get the win, which is what I did. And in round 2, I got paired on board 1 versus National Master Austin Green, and some of you might even know him. Austin Green is actually the defending Texas State champion. He's obviously a master level player, and I think he just deserves a shout out anyway because he is a nice guy. He did give me some tips and things like that after the game, and he's playing in these tournaments in Arlington, which he's always the highest rated player, or from what I've seen. So he's facing a lot of low-rated opposition like me. So, I think he deserves a shout-out. He's just willing to do that, and he generally wins anyway. So, all right, with that said, I had the white pieces. I played d4 and he played f5. So, I mean, the thing about these tournaments, I don't really have, time to, prepare openings or anything like that. I don't know why I randomly said that. But, he played the Dutch, and I had some preparation against the Dutch. I go c4, knight f6, g3. This is generally how I start out, just keeping this knight a bit flexible for some variations we might see later. And here he played d6. Now, to be completely honest, I was just not familiar with this move. I mean, it obviously makes sense. You want to prepare e5, and, that could be good for black. And this is where I already played an inaccuracy. I played bishop g2, and what I need to do in anticipation of e5 is go knight f3. That's simply the best move. And why did I not go knight f3? Well, I had this kind of disillusion that I needed to keep this knight flexible because I knew about a specific variation, and I'll show it because I might as well. I believe it's e6, bishop g2, d5. And in a variation like this, I'm supposed to go knight h3. And the reason for that is if he plays bishop d6, I can go bishop f4. And, I kind of instigate this trade. Obviously the knight being on h3 is better suited for it than if it were on f3 or g1 for that matter. So that if he takes, I can take back with the knight. I had this in a previous Arlington tournament back in May against Tim Steiner, who is a candidate master, a USCF candidate master. He played bishop e7, and then it was a pretty long struggle to where we didn't trade any pieces until I had 2 minutes on my clock, and I ended up winning the game. It was a crazy time scramble, but anyway. So as far as I'm aware, it's only really in that variation where I need to keep the knight flexible. But once he commits to this, move d6, he can't play bishop d6 anymore. So there's no point of me saving my knight for h3 in case I need to go bishop f4. So here knight f3 is by far the most accurate, but I didn't play it. I played bishop g2, and he doesn't immediately play e5. Because if he plays e5, I honestly don't remember what I had planned if he does that. I think I was just going to do something like maybe e3, honestly, or just knight c3, just maintain the tension. But there's the possibility of us trading into this endgame, which it looks fine for white, but in reality, it's totally fine for black. I mean, black, both of their bishops are open. Black can just go c6, king c7 if needed. And, the center pawn majority is going to help for sure. So anyway, my opponent played g6, and I played knight c3, bishop g7, knight f3. So now e5 is stopped, castles, queen c2. And yeah, I think queen c2 was a wasted tempo because it anticipates knight e4, but it's not really a threat in this position. I think my coach was showing me, or we were looking at, if I castle and if he just dives in with knight e4 immediately, then the variation we looked at, I can trade. I can go knight d2 going after this pawn. And then, the pawn's attacked twice. So the only way for him to sufficiently defend it is d5. And then I can exchange on d5. I can go bishop takes e4. And once the queen just moves somewhere, I have this... No, is that the line we were looking at? No, wait. No, actually here I go knight g5. No, my bad. I go knight g5 here. That's more accurate than d2 because, okay, if he tries to kick me off, I just take the pawn and I'm fine. And if he goes d5 to defend the pawn, I take. Note that my knight is defended by the bishops. They have to make another queen move. And then here I can go queen b3 check. And this is pretty much lights out because I guess he could defend, though, in this variation. But then, like, you know, what's he going to do against d5? I mean, like, obviously he's not going to play into it, but, you know, just like knight f7. And if he's real generous, you know, I can just get the smothered mate. And I guess this is just to show you how a smothered mate can happen in a practical game. But anyway, so all that to say, queen c2 was a bit of a wasted tempo because he's not really threatening knight e4. I should be more than happy to invite it. So my opponent played queen e8. Queen e8 has the pretty obvious idea of going pawn to e5. And here, I believe d5 is a good move because if he goes e5, I can en passant. But I didn't really know that or think about that during the game. And after e5, I just went ahead and played b3. He played e4, I played knight e1. Here he played knight c6, I played e3. So the game kind of went on knight b4, queen d2, a5, a3, knight c6, bishop b2. And here he played an interesting move, d5. Now, d5 temporarily gives the pawn away. I'm not exactly sure why he would do it. My guess is that maybe he wanted to try to keep this pawn there so that my bishop would be blocked, which is relevant in a variation later. So by playing d5, he kind of stacks my pawns. And then if I take, which I did, he can just go knight e7 and win it back. And here, you know, there's no other way for me to defend the pawn. He's attacking it twice. I only have one defender, and I don't see a good way to put another defender on it. So I played d6, which is by far the most logical move because it's like, you know, I'm giving away this pawn, so I might as well just force him to take with the c pawn. And I had the wrong follow-up. After c takes, white to move. What would you play in this position? You can pause the video if you want. There's a weird squeaky noise to my left. I mean, who knows in the city? Like, who knows what that could be? So, in the game, I played knight c2, which is wrong. I should have played pawn to d5. And the point behind pawn to d5 is that his pieces, mainly the light square bishop, is restricted. So the thing about d5 is that seems weakening because now, sorry, my nose is itchy, you know. I mean, I'm at home, no one's here, so anyway. The point behind d5 is that, well, the point is that it restricts the bishop and maybe opens up my bishop in the future. The thing is, it looks weakening because now no other pawn can defend it because now the e-pawn is blocked by e4. But the thing is, how can he really attack it? I have two attackers here. I could bring a third if I have two defenders of d5, and I could put a third if I need to. And he doesn't really have a good way to attack it. I mean, like, maybe there's queen f7, but then I go rook d1. And at this point, he's kind of putting all his eggs in one basket anyway. Like, I suppose he has d6. Sorry, b6 to try to go here, but I feel like I just get too much counterplay. Probably like knight b5 here even. And I go after this guy. Yeah, he'd have to defend. Just like, is knight c7 good here? I mean, like, it's not. I guess if I absolutely have to, I can make this trade. I don't think I would want to, but yeah. I mean, it's looking pretty cramped for black anyway. So, you know, conceptually, this was the best move, which is what I didn't do. And now he plays d5, which blocks in my bishop. And my bishop turns out to just be horrible the rest of the game. So I played knight a4. Knight a4 has the obvious idea to go knight c5, and knight b6 if he allows it, which he didn't. He played rook a6. And here I played knight c5. My opponent played rook c6. And this is where I realized some stuff to where He's gonna play b6 next move and gonna kick my knight away. I wanted to play b4 in this position and just try to get some counterplay so that, if he takes, I was probably gonna take with the, I don't know, it's either knight or pawn. I feel like both work. Probably pawn, so I could push the pawn and bring my knight in, and it simultaneously opens the a file. That's my thought. But when I played b4, or when I didn't play b4, when I was calculating it, I realized this annoying variation he had with b6. And if I go, I could go knight a4 here, and that's okay, I guess. But if I go knight b3, which is kind of what I wanted to do, he had this annoying move a4. And the knight just does not have a good square to go to. Like, I think it's relegated to like c1 or something like that, and it's not fun to deal with. So, I played knight a4, which is weird now that I think about it, and it's probably not the best move to play anyway. I'm just checking what the computer says. Okay, yeah. Yeah, computer says to play b4, and I think I remember actually going over this variation with my coach. So after b4, if he plays b6, I could just play this move b5. And I remember thinking about it, but I don't remember why I rejected it. I mean, it's still good for black, according to the computer. Eval says like minus 1.3, but yeah, rook c7, and computer's just saying a4 just to like get rid of this knight, or just to give it up. So if I play, yeah, now this guy is hanging. I don't remember that's what I calculated. I don't remember concretely, but anyway. I mean, with that said, yeah, I think I just started to play a little bit superficiously from here, if that's even the right word. I'm not exactly sure, but my opponent played b6, taking the c5 square away, and then obviously giving his bishop some flexibility. I played rook fc1, he played bishop d7, I played knight c3, and he played g5. So it's typical of kind of the Dutch structures, and also similar to like a King's Indian. He's just trying to get his kingside attack going. So I played b4. It's the type of thing to where I'm just strongest. I'm just strongest on the queen side, so that's honestly just where I'm going for. He played a4, I played b5. He played rook to c4, and rook c4 surprised me a little bit at first. I was going to play bishop f1 and try to take on c4, but what I realized is that black probably wants me to take the rook, because if I end up trading my bishop for the rook, I have some kingside weaknesses to deal with. Like, he could probably just go like queen h5 and dare me to take the rook. And if I take, this just doesn't look good. I mean, he's going to just go in, his bishop could go in, and like, it just doesn't look very good. And the point is, yes, I'm up material, but my king is super weak, mainly the light squares. So it's that type of thing. So yeah, after rook c4, I played knight b4, and right, he took my pawn, I took queen takes, and here I played bishop f1, which looks like a pin, but he can actually take my rook, and I can't take his queen because he creates his own pin on my bishop. So I just recapture, and he played queen d7, and here I actually so I'm basically down a pawn here, and he's outplaying me for most of the game. But then I started to get back in the game a little bit. I played knight a2 and knight c3, and all of a sudden I have some piece coordination working. For me. And, knight g6, bishop e5, like, my pieces are starting to come back alive, and I'm just going to win the pawn back if I need to. The issue is I'm just in time pressure here. So after queen e6, knight takes a4, we made the exchange, and here he played f4. Now, this is a critical moment of the game. The deal is I probably had less than a minute on my clock here. The thing with these tournaments, with this one in particular, it's 45 minutes per side, and there's a 5-second delay before each turn. So in theory, if I had 1 second left on my clock, I would have 5 seconds to make every move. So it's not like I'm going to straight up flag like I would in a 3-0 blitz game on chess.com, but it's still time pressure because you don't have a lot of time to just calculate things out. And I'll just ask you to pause the video. When black plays f4, does black actually have any threats? And if so, what is black threatening? So the thing about f4 is that black does not have any threats. You know, I think if they just take on e3, I could just take back with the queen or something like that. They take g3, I'll just take back. And what you might be thinking is if they go f3, queen h3, I always have my queen or bishop who could vacate to the f1 square. And the f1 square will be important for that diagonal piece to cover queen g2 checkmate. So there is not really a threat. So white should just play a move like queen c6. And queen c6 just offers a queen trade. Black does not want to go for the queen trade because they have the attack, or they seemingly have the attack. And if they trade queens, I do have some weaknesses to target. Maybe b6. And, you know, computer's saying queen h3, in which, you know, here I can just play a move like bishop f1, and black is not really getting anywhere. So this was the type of moment where, yes, it was time pressure, and I think if I just had a few more minutes on my clock to evaluate it, I would not have made this decision. But I just took on f4, and this is a good lesson for a couple of reasons. One, does my opponent actually have any threats? They do not. So let's just focus on playing the best move. And also, just because a capture is possible doesn't mean you should do it. And so here I played e takes f4, which was completely reactionary and pretty much cost me the game. Because now after g takes f4, they have moves like e3 coming. I suppose, what if I still play queen c6 here? Right, queen c6 is just equal. Because now there's queen f5, and there's honestly just more danger in this variation now that I've kind of clarified the pawn structure a little bit. And of course I'm in time pressure, so I played queen c7, which allows e3, and I'm pretty sure white is just busted here. I mean, I can throw in a check, but they can just block, and there's not really much for me to do. So I played knight takes b6 and time pressure. I probably had like less than 30 seconds at this point. He played e takes f2, king takes f2, and finished me off with knight g4. I played king g2. I think technically king f1 held more resistance, so that if knight h2, there was king g2. Just note in these variations, sorry, which move am I thinking about? Right, after knight g4, king g2, he does not have queen e2 because my bishop occupies it, so it's not that straightforward for black, but he can just go f3 check, which he did, and I didn't see a way out of it. Honestly, I just took the pawn, you know, just to be nice and allow him to checkmate me, which, you know, technically I should probably have not allowed a mate in one, but what can I do? If I play king f1, he can take h2 with check, and that position's pretty bad. If I go king h3, I just open myself to any discovery he wants. If I go king h1, then I'm sure he just has something like knight f2 and queen e1. Well, queen e1 immediately is probably just good. So, in fact, I think it's just checkmate. So, he played queen e4, and that was checkmate. So, yeah, pretty good game, and I think a lot to learn from that. You know, I think there was just some variations with the Dutch. Like with d6, I should just go knight f3 immediately, anticipating e5, and yeah, just a lot of interesting moments, you know, and obviously a good experience against a master level player to get this game in and learn from it. So, all right, with that said, I think I will try to get the next video out pretty soon. So at this point, I am 1-1, 1 win, 1 loss, and there are 2 more rounds to go. So, all right, I will see you for the next video. Take care.